Majority of the victims of the Garissa attack were young, ambitious students who only went to that town in search of a ticket to a better life.
And that dream was cut short in a murderer's orgy at dawn. Up north in Mandera, virtually no night passes without the sound of a gun or an explosion.
And Kenya's northeast now appears to be permanently under siege, with the grief spilling to every corner of the nation. After weeks of investigations that started even before the Garissa attack, KTN has uncovered the dark secrets of Mandera County, where clans, politics, corruption all conspire to give a free passage to the enemy to come in and kill at will.
In this episode, we will have the story of young men who leave their homes to fight with the enemy, police officers who look the other way as foreigners stream in from Somalia, and a county government that is at war with itself.
Here now is a preview of that.
The day patrols only leave more questions in our minds. The police checks are surprising. We stand to observe as this man drives his donkey cart from Somalia into Kenya. He's got a load full of charcoal. The search begins. A few glimpses later, and the charcoal trader is free to proceed. His donkeys slowly rolling into Kenyan territory. It's not hard to imagine what else could be so easily hidden and ferried into the country in broad daylight.
Until 6 ikifika sisi tuna withdraw, so border inawacheki waupe. So usiku kuna watu wanapita, kuna mizigo inapita, so kwanza hapo huwezi jua nini imepitishwa, lakini most of the time kuna mizigo inapita usiku kwa sababu hakuna askari pale ndani, kwa sababu sisi tukishauri.
All right, that story coming your way later on in this bulletin. Asham Welo spent quite a number of days working on it. Our hashtag tonight is Terror Crossing. It forms the basis of our big question tonight. And we're asking you, do you support the proposal to build a wall across the border with Somalia?
And then join the conversation. Tell us what you think. SMS your yes or no opinion, or you can tweet it at Ben_Kitili, at Linda Ogutu, or at KTN. You can SMS us on the SMS line 22155. We shall be sampling those views during this live newscast. Close to 50 prominent Somali business persons and representatives of non-profit organizations were today grilled at the CRD Training Center in South Sea here in Nairobi. Now this follows the recent banning of 14 money transfer service providers and 3 NGOs as possible associates of the Al-Shabaab terror group. The Forex Bureau's association says it will go to court to challenge the government's move to freeze their accounts. The members have, however, asked the government to speed up the investigations.
Walisema ati sisi tunashuku nyinyi kama nyinyi ni finanza wa Al-Shabaab. Hiyo ndio tumshinda kujua. Sasa kama unajua wewe ni mfadhili wa Al-Shabaab, iko haja gani ya kuita na kuuliza maswali? Sisi wakushika na kubaki kotini.
Former Chief Registrar of Judiciary Gladys Shulei has dismissed the latest efforts by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to summon and investigate a number of public officials as a futile public relations exercise. Speaking after being grilled over alleged corruption during her tenure at the judiciary, Shulei says her name is being dragged into the corruption mud, yet she is innocent of any wrongdoing. Suspended Deputy President's Chief of Staff was also grilled today. Aaron Ochieng has that story.
Mwendo wa saa 3:30 Gladys
Right, we do apologize for that. We're getting you the English version of that story in just a minute. Meanwhile, let's take you all the way to the coast. Police in Mombasa say they are investigating leads to a possible drug haul. This after they impounded 2 kilograms of what is believed to be heroin 4 days ago from a yacht in Kilifi County. The drugs, estimated to have a street value of 6 million shillings, were discovered after police found traces of narcotics in a vehicle which they later linked to the yacht. The water vessel was later taken to Kilindini port for what police say will be a thorough check for more drugs. 8 people who were on the yacht are in police custody, 8 of whom are Kenyan nationals. The coxswain of the yacht is reportedly from the Seychelles, although no other details about him have been released.
Substance which we found was supposed to be transported to Seychelles or Dar es Salaam. Wacha tufanyie dara hata kama tutafanya nini kukata mahali. These people are very tricky. Hata wataweza kuweka kwa hii shati yako na uvae na usijue.
So let's bring a reminder of a big question tonight, and we are talking about matters of insecurity. We are asking you, do you support the proposal by the Kenyan government to build a wall across the Kenya-Somalia border?
Here's the thing, later on in this bulletin, Asha Mwilo will be bringing you a story that she has been following up on for months after weeks of investigations that started even before the Garissa attack. KTN has uncovered the dark secrets of Mandera County, where clans, politics and corruption all conspire to give a free passage to the enemy to come in and kill at will. That is why tonight we're asking if you support the proposal to build a wall across the border with Somali. What do you think? Do you think it will help in stopping Al-Shabaab from crossing into the country? Will it make Kenya safer? Our hashtag tonight is Terror Crossing.
Indeed, you can be sure to join that conversation on Twitter. Some of your comments here. Tom Kidake says, no, the walls will not know if bombs or attackers are passing over. There must be a security check.
Do you have any more?
Yes, Caleb Kiboy says, no, building the wall would not do any good. The Al-Shabaab are already finding their way. Yatit Zef on Twitter also says, no, the project is not viable. Even the construction workers will not be safe. A lasting solution should be sought.
Albert Nyadiaga says the situation at our Pora Somali border is so appalling. Thanks and bravo for the investigative journalism.
And they do stand by for the lead tonight with Asha Mwilo, who shall be speaking on this matter. For now, though, we take a short break. Don't go too far. We'll be back shortly. Just ahead, KTN goes behind the terror lines in Kenya's wild north.
You're watching KTN Prime.
Thank you for staying with KTN Prime.
Well, let's turn our attention to matters environment and one forest in the Mao complex that is struggling to survive. The Nyakweri forest is reeling from effects of charcoal burning and encroachment, with at least 1,000 bags of charcoal being produced from the forest daily. Experts are warning that the crucial forest could be wiped out in less than 5 years if initiatives to save the indigenous forest are not put in place. KTN's Rita Tinina reports.
At the world-famous Maasai Mara Game Reserve, wildlife roam freely. Kilometers away, pastoralists graze their cattle. But this, experts say, could all change in less than a decade. And this is why. Destruction of the Nyakweri forest in Narok County. The forest, which borders the Maasai Mara Game Reserve, is part of the larger Mao complex, the country's biggest water tower. In the 1,200 square kilometer forest, cattle graze freely, and some have made the forest their home. But it gets worse. Charcoal burning is a daily activity here, one that appears to be undertaken round the clock. As charcoal burns in several areas, piles of wood are ready for the next step, turning the wood into charcoal as more trees are felled, ready to be prepared into stacks of chopped wood ready for burning. As the cycle of charcoal burning continues, the end result, bags of charcoal leave the forest daily.
It is estimated at about 1,000 bags of charcoal leave this forest every day.
That, according to experts, secures Nyakweri Forest a slot as being among the biggest charcoal producers in the country and puts the forest at risk of irreversible destruction in just a few years.
This is likely to lead to irreversible loss of this forest in less than 2 years at this rate.
The illegal charcoal business, it is estimated, is worth over 100 billion shillings and remains one of the biggest threats to the survival of forests in the country.
So this is a big industry if you look at it. But the thing is to commercialize it such that it becomes a business. So that people start investing and they stop going to the water towers, stop going to the forest.
The Nyakweri Forest is a breeding ground for elephants from the Masai Mara Game Reserve, and together with other forests in the Mau complex, feed several rivers, including the Mara River. Its destruction will not only have an impact on the Masai Mara Game Reserve, locals will also be casualties.
Just a few weeks back, this place was very dry. And the whole area was very dry, and a number of Masai pastoralists have moved to this area as the last refuge for their livestock. So once we lose the forest, we are going to lose that important refuge for the livestock of the Maasai.
For years, the country has been struggling to increase its forest cover, and with activities such as the charcoal burning in Nyakweri Forest slowing down the gains made so far, achieving the forest cover target may take a while. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Let's go back to that story on the war on graft. And former Chief Registrar of Judiciary Gladys Shulei has dismissed the latest efforts by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to summon and investigate a number of public officials as a futile public relations exercise. Speaking after being grilled over alleged corruption during her tenure at the judiciary, Shulei says her name is being dragged into the corruption mud, yet she is innocent of any wrongdoing. Suspended Deputy President's Chief of Staff was also grilled today. Aaron Ochieng now with that story.
The former Judiciary Chief Registrar and the suspended Chief of Staff in the Office of the Deputy President were the latest guests at Integrity House that has played host to tens of public officials since the now controversial list of shame was released in Parliament late last month. The former registrar is alleged to have floated procurement procedures through single sourcing for the refurbishment of the office of the Chief Justice.
They should point out what law has been in fact breached, because it's not sufficient to make an allegation after allegation about someone just saying that they are corrupt, yet you cannot show any law they breached or where the corruption actually in fact happened.
Shulei is also being investigated for what parliamentary reports say was the irregular purchase of the Elgon House that was to be official Court of Appeal chambers, as well as the Mavoko Law Court's new offices.
In my case, it has been 19 months of allegation after allegation, yet no investigation was being done. And then suddenly, I find myself in a list for things I've never been told about. But I'm happy that today I was able to clarify those issues.
The former registrar's husband, Sam Shulei, who accompanied her to the session with the EACC, says the war on corruption must go on, but an institution like EACC must put their house in order.
I want to make it very clear that my family and I fully support the fight against corruption and support the sincere efforts of His Excellency the President. We can understand his frustration and agony. We believe he's doing the right thing. This institution, EACC, is poorly led. And because it can't and will never achieve its objectives. Because it is used by crooks and poor leaders to settle scores, harass citizens, and when it is cornered, it does funny things, like release an added list of what it terms as active investigations, but really hiding its incompetencies. There is one thing that as a man you do. You protect your family. I will never allow it. If my wife took any money, okay, and she's never taken a single cent, so did my brother, who used to work here. But he was charged because he did his job. In fact, he should have been getting a presidential commendation for handling the last election the best way possible. He was the only one who couldn't sleep for 30 days. Yet, EACC, politics, charge one charge one court guy or leaning court, which is Mr. Oswago, charge another one, who is perhaps Mr. Hassan or Mr. Sholei, but because Mr. Hassan is protected by this institution, that's why his name is not mentioned as in the list of corruption yet. Hamid Isaac, in the Chicken Gate scandal in the UK, he is mentioned as a co-conspirator. He was interviewed by this institution. Why wasn't his name in that list?
Marianne Keitany declined to talk to the press after her grilling, but she's also accused of using funds amounting to 100 million shillings to marshal MPs in an attempt to impeach devolution Cabinet Secretary Anne Waiguru. Aaron Ocheng, KTN.
Shall continue to follow happenings at the Integrity Center. We keep tabs on that for you. Now, somber mood engulfed Kisii County today as families, friends and well-wishers gathered to pay the last respects to the students who died in the Garissa terror attack. The bodies of 15 out of the 19 students from Kisii who died in the attack were transported home today. An interdenominational prayer service was held for victims ahead of their burials. KTN's Fred Muturi has the details.
Hundreds of Kisii residents stand up for the service at Gusii Stadium. Tears flowed freely as the ceremony continued. Security officers had a hard time trying to control the surging crowds. Thirty students from the region survived the attack. Of the students who died, 2 of them are yet to be identified, while one of the students is reported missing.
We are seeing political statements that are being made, that some people are going to produce the list of the people that they know might have been involved in this. We want to request that these people must be made to answer, because if they knew the list existed, or those people existed before this time, let's not hide the facts.
A section of Kupet leaders accompanied the bodies to Kisii.
With immediate effect that no teacher should report to northeastern area until security is guaranteed.
The Kisii County government has set aside funds to assist the affected families. Governor James Ongwae said each deceased student's family will receive 50,000 shillings, while each of the 30 survivors will receive 10,000 shillings. The county government had also availed transport for family members to and from Chiromo Mortuary, Nairobi.
I want to ask that the leaders from Northeastern Province must take responsibility, because if something like this happened in Kisii, I can assure the nation that the Kisiis would have taken responsibility.
The county has also initiated talks with Moi and Kisii universities on the relocation of the affected students.
We take great exception to what has happened. We are asking the national government that the response that was given was a response that should have seen the sacking of a number of people.
Leaders from the region are asking the government to take decisive steps to the runaway insecurity witnessed in the country.
Tungependa kumwambia Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta ajue marafiki zake ni kina nani, ajue marafiki zake watachunga nchi hii ni kina nani, na tunasema hivi, lazima Mheshimiwa Uhuru ajue kuwa kama anatembea na Waislamu lazima waulize Waislamu wawe na amani na umoja kwa nchi yetu.
Let us pray for our political leaders. Instead of entering into their political games, play games, so that we can face this reality with the wisdom, the intelligence it deserves.
Fred Muturi, KTN Prime.
Right, so coming right up is the lead terror crossing. KTN's Asham will stand by for that in the next very few minutes. On the big question tonight, we're asking you, do you support the proposal to build a wall on the Kenya-Somalia border?
Dan Mukwaya says, yes, I do support it. Will centralize movement and avoid terror crossing and smuggling. Stephen on Twitter says, what the government is doing is an exercise in futility. The enemy's tentacles are rooted internally. Abdustino Omai says, no, why not learn from best practice? What is Ethiopia doing that we are not? That is the solution.
And Ernest Makau says technology is advanced. It's not prudent to be building walls at this time and age.
Pandiat Kalabusia says no, Al-Shabaab have mastered a deceptive failure and they use locals to unleash terror. This is mediocre.
Yes, keep the SMSs and the tweets coming. For now, though, we take a short break, after which Joy Doinbira will be bringing you the latest in business.
Time for business. My name is Joy Doinbira. The country will soon have a new governor at the central bank following the completion of the recruitment process and the shortlisting of 6 individuals for deputy governor. But as Adelaide Changole reports, in the last of the CBK succession series, the entire process used to choose this new governor has been troubled with missteps that have thrown the integrity of the process into question.
For years, successive governments have opted to cherry-pick central bank governors. But in 2015, President Uhuru Kenyatta decided to reverse this trend with the first-ever competitive recruitment process for a CBK governor. However, with that decision, the president laid bare the lack of succession planning at the CBK and began what would become a rat race to find a new governor, chairman, and deputy governor of CBK.
We've known for the last 2 years that Professor Njuguna Ndunu's tenure would come to an end at the end of March 2015, and there was nothing to prevent us from actually starting the screening and starting the recruitment many years before. I mean, even as much as a year before that. That's precisely what the Bank of England did. So obviously, whoever comes in will be coming into the office and will be catching his or her breath.
Analysts have faulted the strategy to use the Public Service Commission to hire the next executives at the central bank, saying more was required to recruit people for positions as sensitive as the governor of the central bank.
Many smaller nations than Kenya have actually advertised for their own central bank governors in publications such as The Economist. There was nothing to prevent Kenya from doing that. One, it satisfies something that concerns us as Kenyans about the transparency of the process, and the second point that it will contribute to is the competition to ensure that you have as many people as possible competing.
For starters, the commission only gave 2 weeks for interested applicants to send their applications for the 3 positions, after which the commission shortlisted 4 for the chairman and 5 for the governor. But the experts say the time frame is too short for adequate vetting of people entrusted with steering the country's monetary policy.
It should have been given enough time upon which we should have had an opportunity where the best person will have been identified. And this should have not been rushed the way it is being rushed.
The experts have also called into question the wording used in different advertisements, which disqualified anyone who is a salaried employee of any public entity or a director, officer, employee, partner or shareholder of any financial institution, something that analysts say was designed to lock out some candidates.
If I have shares in Bank Y, in the Nairobi Stock Exchange, I'm not supposed to apply. So, you know, were those kind of criteria necessary, or should you say, should you get the job, you have to sell your shares? You know, so you are like asking which should have come when. Yeah, because even salaried, I can come as salaried, but the criteria says, should I win the job, I will not be allowed to continue with the other salaried job.
All this appeared to have dented public confidence in the process that has misfired from the very beginning.
We should have hired the reputable firms to assist in terms of drawing out the criteria for the candidates who are to be shortlisted for these interviews. And secondly, it should have been open to every potential candidate.
Meanwhile, the Public Service Commission has shortlisted 6 candidates for the position of deputy governor, which had to be re-advertised following what the commission called a shortage of qualified candidates. Among the people shortlisted include Rose Ndetho, Mark Lesit, Angel Nyaoma, all from the CBK. Others are Sheila Mbijiwe, a director at Ecobank, John Birech, and James Wahome. The interviews will take place on Thursday, after which the PAC will forward the names of the 3 shortlisted candidates to the president for appointment. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
Thanks, Adelaide. Now, the government has announced plans to install 4,000 megawatts of nuclear energy into the national grid by 2031. Energy Principal Secretary Joseph Njoroge says plans are already underway to train professionals in the field with the added power capacity critical to the country's economic growth. But with most countries scaling back on the use of nuclear energy, what steps is the government taking to safeguard the country from nuclear waste? KTN's Abiagina is attending the 3rd conference on nuclear power in Africa and brings us this report.
The push to drive adoption of nuclear energy took center stage at this year's nuclear power conference, with focus being placed on African countries to consider going nuclear to growing energy needs. Kenya is among the countries that have expressed interest in nuclear energy. The Kenya Nuclear Electricity Board says it has completed the pre-feasibility studies which have confirmed the viability of the energy source.
Nuclear electricity generation, with its low operation costs and reliability, will be one of the jewels in our energy crown come 2030.
You will find that the price of nuclear fuel or nuclear pellets has been very stable over a very long time.
The deployment of nuclear power could be a major game changer for Kenya. Experts note that the plant will be established near a water body to facilitate cooling. The plant will be running on a huge supply of uranium. The rate of development of nuclear power plants has been sluggish in Africa, with only a handful of countries taking on these power projects compared to European countries. Safety concerns have been a major factor to the viability of nuclear energy, with most not totally convinced of its usefulness.
Kenya will apply the International Atomic Energy Standards of what is referred to as safety in depth.
The government is currently undertaking a number of initiatives to grow the country's energy mix from traditional energy sources. The Ministry of Energy has a plan to upscale energy to about 5,000 megawatts in under 40 months. Among ongoing projects are the Lamu coal plant and the Lake Turkana wind power plant. Abiagina, KTN, reporting from Diani in South Coast.
The livestock subsector contributes significantly to the economy of Baringo County, which close to 80% of its landmass is arid and semi-arid. This has prompted the county government to embark on a massive livestock improvement program that will see close to 8,000 animals dewormed and immunized against various diseases. Our reporter Philip Keitani attended the exercise and now reports.
The livestock subsector contributes significantly to the economy of Baringo County. Each year, farmers sell over 300 livestock through various platforms, hence the pressing need to eradicate livestock diseases as a means to create wealth for farmers.
Livestock production is a mainstay of the economy of this region.
The livestock improvement program is aimed at giving farmers in Baringo County, famed for producing premium meat, an opportunity to expand their breeds. The project aims at improving the beef value chain in the county to offer packed produce to be distributed across the country.
Madhara yetu ni kupata ng'ombe mzuri na ugonjwa ipunguke. Maana shida ni ya ng'ombe kufe.
The initiative is part of the Mifugo ni Mali livestock project, which the KCB Foundation has been implementing to empower farmers from arid and semi-arid lands to reap maximum returns from their produce, with the ultimate goal of assisting farmers replenish their livestock numbers as well as boost their productivity and immunity.
We're introducing hybrid goats that can produce as much as 3-4 liters of milk, and that can build much flesh, so that the weight of a single goat can have a value that is reasonable to the farmer.
The partnership, which is between the KCB Foundation, Kenya Veterinary Association and the Baringo County, will see over 8,000 livestock from Baringo County get examined, vaccinated and treated for various diseases as a means to end the outbreak of livestock diseases that has engulfed the region. The launch of this inoculation exercise by the county government of Baringo and the KCB Foundation is a welcome move by most of these farmers, with the hope that this will help improve their livestock that will fetch more when they hit the market. Philip Keitan, KTN, from Bartolimo, Baringo County.
And over 2,500 containers at the port of Mombasa are set to be auctioned as the government moves to decongest the airport. This follows the expiry of waiver issued by the government last year to have importers clear the backlog at the port. However, A section of importers say the container freight stations failed to implement the waiver, making it difficult for them to clear the containers. Last year, the Intergovernmental Standing Committee on Shipping raised concerns about the presence of unclear cargo being the reason for congestion and inefficiency at the port. Usually, once cargo has been delivered to its destination, empty containers are supposed to be returned to the shipping line within a free period of 14 days for local and up to 45 days for transit cargo, failure to which it attracts a charge of between 630 per day and 1,260 shillings depending on the size of the container. Since the waiver was issued, less than 100 containers have been cleared, most of which are transit containers heading to Uganda, Rwanda and Burundi. Let's now take a look at how your money worked for you in the financial report. And well, that's it that we had for you tonight on KTN Business. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. Up next is Sport.
Welcome to Sports Now. Tens of Kenya's top athletes will be forced to rely on the country's athletics governing body, AK, for career management after the suspension of the Rosa Associates and Volare Sports Management. The two firms that manage the largest number of Kenyan athletes will be out for 6 months to pave way for investigations on the increase of number of doping cases in the country. Meanwhile, Athletics Kenya chairman Isaiah Kiplagat has stepped down for 3 months to campaign for the IAAF vice presidency post in the forthcoming elections.
After months of accusations and pointing of fingers towards the foreign agents in regards to the increased number of doping cases amongst Kenyan athletes, Athletics Kenya this afternoon suspended 2 giant athletes' management from the country for a period of 6 months to pave way for investigations.
The two that we have today decided that we put them aside until the investigations are complete are the Rosa and Associates and the Gerald van der Veen, so that investigations can be carried out, and when the results are out, we'll decide whether they come back or they continue doing bidding agents.
The Rosa Associates Management Company that's under the stewardship of Dr. Rosa and his son Federico Rosa has been in trouble in recent times, especially after 2 of its high-profile athletes, Matthew Kisori and Rita Cheptoo, failed drug tests. With no evidence presented on the management's involvement, Kiplagat admitted the doping menace is a complex issue. Kiplagat could, however, not reveal why the Volare Sports Management was suspended. Volare manages high-profile marathoners like Geoffrey Mutai, world record holder Dennis Kimeto, and former record holder Wilson Kipsang, who is the Professional Athletics Association of Kenya chairman. PAC has been on the forefront to push for urgent solutions to curb the doping menace in the country.
What we are lacking in Kenya is the awareness. The awareness is what we are really failing on that. And when we create that kind of awareness to our athletes, you find that they will be very cautious when it comes to taking drugs. If anybody comes in and say, okay, you have a problem in your knee, please let me give you this medication for injury, they will be aware to make sure that that kind of drug is tested before you take it.
The suspension comes just 4 months before the World Athletics Championships, and athletes under the 2 giants will have to look for alternative management firms or rely on the federation.
Therefore, working with the IAAF and the meat promoters like the Diamond Leagues and so forth, to agree on the modalities of how we are going to manage these athletes so that they don't miss competition.
Meanwhile, Isaiah Kiplagat stepped down from the Athletics Kenya helm for a period of 3 months to concentrate on his IAAF vice presidency campaign. He appointed retired Major General Jackson Tuwei to take charge in an acting capacity.
If then I succeed in my venture, then those who are acting will be confirmed. Even if I don't, I'm sure they will be confirmed because it may not be necessary for me to come back anyway.
Kiplagat will be vying for the IAAF vice presidency in the forthcoming elections before the World Athletics Championships in Beijing.
In football, 8-year-old Kariobangi Sharks hopes to dine with the big boys of Kenyan football come 2016 season. The side is now in FKF Premier League and has put the necessary measures to mitigate the side from financial problems bedeviling many clubs in Kenyan top-flight football and the FKF Premier League. Hassan Juma takes an in-depth look.
That some FKF Premier League clubs are struggling is not in doubt. The wage bill coupled with administrative costs are weighing these teams down. Top flight teams are equally fighting to stay afloat.
Next, in between the cones.
We sought to know how Kariobangi Sharks has managed to remain in existence under the current turbulent times.
Lazima tumalize kwa top 6 because venye tumesikia top 6 ndio maybe watashikanishwa na hii ligi ingine kakuwa ligi moja.
Towards the end of last season, Sharks, who were then participating in the National Super League, laid down a one-year target of playing in the country's top league. In order to do this, they recruited well and also signed Michael Amenga, who holds a KNVB Level B license as head coach. Aware that the team needed a good playing ground to achieve their ambition, the management signed a memorandum of understanding with Utali College that would allow them to upgrade their facility at a cost of 1 million shillings.
It is really motivating for players when you get maybe your allowance or anything.
The side has managed to be a conveyor belt of sorts, with the likes of Patila Amato being a product of Kariobangi Sharks. According to team captain Eric Juma, the presence of an experienced coach and other changes in the team are a motivating factor for these players.
We bring in a more experienced coach, and I think that is a plus for us.
Standing vile iko tofauti wapata ni point moja. Ile timu iko juu sana iko juu na point 3. Compared na Premier League unapata timu iko juu ya koga labda around point 6 ama 8.
For now, they are content on participating in the FKF Premier League but have set their eyes on dining with the big boys of the Kenya Premier League next season. Hassan Juma, KTN Sports.
Brookside Dairies has partnered with Strathmore University to nurture talent. The two have signed a 35 million shillings partnership that aims at sponsoring the best hockey and basketball players who excel in academics as well. Brookside has enlisted the services of top coaches to select the best players in the country to take part in the Brookside Games organized by the Dairy Company. The organizers hope the partnership will ensure that students put more effort in talent development, but at the same time concentrate on academics. The annual Brookside Secondary School Games kick off tomorrow in Nakuru County. The games will go on until Saturday.
To what you guys are now, this is world class.
To qualify in this, you need to take part in the Brookside Term 1 Games. You need to also take part in the Brookside East African Games. Our coaches will be there to identify the talent. And then you also need to do well in your exams, in your final exams. For the Kenyan students, you have to attain a mean grade of A-.
Right, so thank you for staying with KTN Prime. Let's remind you of our big question tonight. We are asking, do you support the proposal to build a wall across the border with Somalia?
Abdikani Ibrahim on Twitter says, no, let that money be used to build houses for our security and paid allowances for them, period.
Fred Agoro says, no, there are Al-Shabaab in Nairobi, Mombasa. Did they all enter through Somalia?
Jack Ndunya says, in this age of grenades, the terrorists might bring the walls down using grenades.
Rep Kadid says, no, corruption is a problem in Kenya and the wall will not help.
Hussein Abdullah says, yes, but what will stop these guys from blowing up the wall if they're with the heavy armory they have got?
Alindi Hezi says, it's a waste of time and it's also a way of milking money from citizens. We're tired of being blindfolded.
Yusuf Abdinar says, I don't support the idea of a wall. Remember past targeted walls to motivate the forces.
Those are your opinions on our big question tonight. We thank you for participating and for being part of this bulletin.
Yes, and of course now remember, Terror Crossing, the lead tonight, is coming up shortly after this news bulletin. And for the last week, the country has been on standstill as hundreds of families across the nation grieve over the death or injury of loved ones.
A majority of the victims of the Garissa attack were young, ambitious students who only went to that town in search of a ticket to a better life.
That dream was cut short in a murderous orgy at dawn that is up north in Mandera. Virtually no night passes without sound of gunfire or an explosion.
And Kenya's northeast now appears to be permanently under siege, with the grief spilling to every corner of the nation. After weeks of investigations that started even before the Garissa attack, KTN has uncovered the dark secrets of Mandera County, where clans, politics and corruption all conspire to give a free passage to the enemy to come in and kill at will.
In this episode, we will have the story of young men who leave their homes to fight with the enemy, police officers who look the other way as foreigners stream in from Somalia, and a county government that is at war with itself. Here's a preview of that story.
The day patrols only leave more questions in our minds. The police checks are surprising. We stand to observe as this man drives his donkey cart from Somalia into Kenya. He's got a load full of charcoal. The search begins. A few glimpses later, and the charcoal trader is free to proceed. His donkeys slowly rolling into Kenyan territory. It's not hard to imagine what else could be so easily hidden and ferried into the country in broad daylight.
Until 6 ikifika sisi tuna withdraw, so boda inawacheki waupe. So usiku kuna watu wanapita, kuna mizigo inapita, so kuanzia kuwezi jua nini imepitishwa, lakini most of the time kuna mizigo inapita usiku kwa sababu kuna askari pale ndani. Kwa sababu sisi tukishauri.
Our hashtag tonight, Terror Crossing. Even as you watch this story by Asha Mwilo, let's keep this conversation going. What are your thoughts on securing Kenya?
Indeed, keep the conversation going. Hashtag Terror Crossing. My name is Ben Kitili. Many thanks for being part of this news bulletin. Good night.
Have a good night. Sleep well. We'll see you tomorrow. Remember, Terror Crossing is up next.
This is KTN. Welcome home.